Hi, I'm Ron Benning, and welcome to your Sacramento Investor Fourplex Market Intelligence Report update for July of 2026. This month, we're going to review what happened in the Sacramento Fourplex market during June, what the numbers are telling us about buyer demand, pricing, and investment opportunities, and whether last month's dramatic improvements mark the beginning of a broader market recovery or simply a temporary spike in sales. And before we get started, if you're a real estate investor, property owner, or simply enjoy staying informed on the Sacramento multifamily market, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so you don't miss future market updates, weekly GRM reports, or cash flow opportunities. Let's jump into the numbers. Last month, the Sacramento Fourplex market was firmly in the buyer's market territory. This month, the story changed dramatically. Months of inventory based on closed sales dropped to 3.5 months, moving the market from a strong buyer's market back to a neutral market territory. On the surface, that looks like an incredible turnaround. But as investors, it's important that we look beyond the headlines. The real question is, has the Sacramento Fourplex market truly begun recovering, or was June simply an unusually strong month? Let's take a closer look. Sales activity. The biggest story this month was closed sales. 8 Sacramento Fourplexes sold during June. That's a 300% increase compared to last month and 100% higher than June of last year. That's a remarkable increase in buyer activity. Now, because this is a relatively small market, dramatic percentage changes can happen when sales volume are low. Going from 2 sales to 8 sales creates eye-catching statistics. But regardless of sample size, one thing is very clear. Buyers came back into the market in June, and the question now is whether they'll continue the buying at this pace. Pending sales. This is where I think investors should pay close attention. Pending sales remained at 5 properties, exactly the same as last month. If buyer demand were accelerating, I'd expect pending sales to continue climbing. Instead, they've leveled off. That doesn't mean the market is weakening, but it does suggest that June's surge in closed sales may not continue unless pending sales begin increasing again. For me, this will be one of the most important numbers to watch next month. Now let's take a look at inventory. Inventory also moved in the right direction. Active listings declined 26.3% compared to last month, and we're also 26.3% lower than 1 year ago. Combined with the increase in closed sales, this caused months of inventory to fall dramatically. Although the buyers have lost some negotiation leverage compared to a month ago, there are still plenty of opportunities for disciplined investors. Today's market is healthier, but it is still rewards buyers who focus on cash flow rather than emotion. Pricing. Now let's talk about pricing. The average asking price came in at approximately $987,000, while the average sold price was approximately $904,000. Average sold prices declined about 10% from last month, while median prices declined roughly 15%. With only 8 sales, monthly price swings should always be viewed cautiously. The encouraging news is that both the average and median price trends remain neutral over the past 6 months. In other words, buyers actively improved, but buyers are still unwilling to overpay. Informed Investor Insight of the month. Now let's move to this month's Investor Insight because I think this may be one of the most encouraging developments in today's reports. If you've been following these market updates, you've heard me say repeatedly that Sacramento has been operating as 2 different fourplex markets. The first market consists primarily of Midtown and East Sacramento, where investor demand has remained relatively strong. The second market includes virtually everywhere else in Sacramento County, where buyers have generally been much more cautious and price sensitive. This month, however, we saw something very different. Of the 8 Sacramento fourplexes that sold during June, 7 were located outside of the Midtown and East Sacramento corridor. That's one of the first times in many months that we've seen the majority of sales occurring outside of those traditionally stronger neighborhoods. I think that's significant. For much of the past year, Midtown and East Sacramento have been carrying the Sacramento Fourplex market while the other areas struggled. This month suggests that investor confidence may finally be expanding into the rest of Sacramento County. Now, I'm not ready to call this a trend after just 1 month, but it certainly is a reason to be cautiously optimistic. If we see this pattern continue over the next couple of months, it could indicate that the broader Sacramento fourplex market is finally beginning to recover, not just the Midtown and East Sacramento submarkets. Remember, healthy real estate markets don't recover because one neighborhood gets stronger. They recover when buyer confidence expands across the entire market. This month may be our first indication that we're beginning to see exactly that. Days on the market and negotiating power. The average days on the market increased to 51 days, while the sold to original list price ratio remained at about 96%. This tells me that buyers still have a pretty decent negotiation ability, but also that properties that are priced correctly continue to sell. Properties that are overpriced are still just sitting on the market, and cash flow remains the deciding factor. GRM and interest rates. Now let's talk about what I believe is still the single most important factor for multifamily investors: cash flow. Interest rates have stabilized over the past month, and they're increasing discussion that we could see a modest rate reduction later this year if inflation continues moving in the right directions. If rates decline, affordability improves. If affordability improves, investor demand will likely strengthen. But for now, buyers continue focusing on properties that make financial sense in today's financial costs. As I always say, don't buy based on emotion, buy based on the numbers. So this month, because the average sale price is about the same and the interest rate is the same, we are using a 10.76 GRM for the break-even GRM. So what's my 30 to 45 day forecast for the Sacramento Fourplex market? Well, so where do we go from here? Right now, I think the market could move in either direction. On the positive side, sales surged, inventory declined, and months of inventory returned to a neutral market. Interest rates have stabilized, and lower rates later this year could create another wave of investor demand. But here's why I'm still cautious. Pending sales have stopped growing. Pricing remains relatively flat, and buyers continue to be extremely disciplined. Until we see pending sales begin increasing again, I'm not yet ready to call this a sustained recovery. Strategy for buyers. If you're buying, conditions remain favorable. Competition is increased slightly, but buyers still have negotiating leverage. Focus on properties that generate strong current or future cash flow. If rates decline later this year, refinancing could significantly improve your long-term returns. Strategy for sellers. If you're selling, this month's report should be encouraging. Buyer demand has definitely improved, but today's buyers remain disciplined. Properties priced correctly using the income approach continue attracting attention. Properties priced based on emotion or yesterday's market are still likely to sit. Price for today's market, not last year's market. In closing, if you'd like to receive my weekly Sacramento Fourplex GRM report showing some of the best cash flow opportunities currently on the market, You'll find a link in the description below. If you're looking for an automatic MLS search on every Sacramento Fourplex currently for sale, I can set that up for you free of charge. So you'll be notified as soon as a new investment opportunity hits the market. And if you're thinking about selling, I'd be happy to provide you with a free property evaluation and a free rental analysis and discuss strategies to help maximize your property's value in today's markets. Look for a link down below or the QR code on the screen. Whether you're planning on buying next week, selling later this year, or simply want to stay informed about the Sacramento investment property market, I'd love the opportunity to help you. If you found this update valuable, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with another investor who might benefit from this information. I'm Ron Benning with SacramentoInvestor.com.